What is going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. I want to thank you for joining me for another 3rd Age Reforged replay battle. Today I have another 1v1 done on the .95 test build that has undergone some pretty big changes since the last videos that I've shown you. I think we've had like 5 or so hot fixes since then. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff that is new, and I'm going to go over a little bit of it as it pertains to the two factions you're going to see in this battle. But in any case, let's take a look at the army comps and let's get into the replay itself. I hope you guys enjoy it. The first army we're looking at today is the forces of the Elves of Lorien, being commanded by Gundabad Smith. Now, since the last few videos where I've shown you the Elves of Lorien, they've undergone some fairly significant price changes, so they're not going to be able to field quite so many elites, but luckily their low-tier units are very much up to the task of taking over where the elites would leave off. Now, you're going to see a lot of low-tier units in the Elven armies in general, and they're going to support those exceptional low tiers with a lot of their very powerful elite units. So far, from what I've seen of the Elves, they seem to be in a much more reasonable place. Instead of being able to just bring all of their elite core, now they have to rely on their low tiers as well, which I think is in a good place, but we'll see what the testers think about it. But in any case, army comps. Gundabad Smith is... Oh, by the way, Gundabad Smith has a YouTube channel, and I'm going to link that for you down in the description because he has an excellent YouTube channel, and he does a lot of... Actually, I think exclusively 3rd Age Reforged content. So yeah, definitely go and check out some of his videos. I watch them every opportunity I get. But in any case, a couple units here of the Sylvan Heavy Archers, one here, one on the other end. In the center, we've got, I believe, 2 units of Light Elven Archers. You're going to see a lot more, as I said, lighter Elven units. And the Light Elven Archers have decent damage, and they are extremely accurate, as you would expect from the Elves. Now, he's also brought 2 units of the Elven Javelins, which is going to serve him very, very well once you see who his opponent is. But the Elven Javelins have a lot of javelin damage, as you would expect. But they are also hybrid spearmen, so they can be very, very strong when used correctly. Over here we've got, I believe, 4 units of Sylvan Spearmen, just your average run-of-the-mill Sylvan Light Spearmen. A couple units of Sylvan Staffmasters, who actually have a small shield block chance, just because, I don't know, I think it's cool that they could maybe just like block arrows with their staffs, like the same sort of bonus that the Sword Masters of Hoeth have in Warhammer 2, for example. But we'll see if that makes it into the final version, but currently I happen to like it. I think it gives them a lot of flavor, and it does kind of help them a little bit in standing up to arrows, but we'll see. In any case, they have a lot of melee defense, so they make an excellent tar pit unit, and as you would expect from this kind of lightly armed unit, they are very vulnerable to missile fire. Now, over here, we got a couple units here of the Sylvan Heavy Swordsman, I believe. I'm not too sure what this money setting is, but I think it's around 13k. He's also got a unit of Sindar Archers to serve as General's Bodyguard. Very elite, 2 HP archers. Absolute monsters in melee, something you definitely need to watch out for if you're fighting the Sylvan Elves. And over here we have a couple units of Woodland Warriors and a couple units of Galadrim Swords to back them up. And I think that just about does it for Gundabad Smith's army, so let's go ahead and let's see what his opponent is bringing to the battle today. Opposite the field from Gundabad Smith, we have the Orcs of Gundabad being commanded by Starling, and naturally he's got his heavily armored, well-shielded units out in front to absorb any of that incoming Elven arrow fire. Here we've got a couple units of Blackwatch Legion and 1 unit of the Gundabad Guard, who are very, very good heavy spearmen. In fact, they can stand up even to lower tier melee infantry, so Arnor Men-at-Arms and things like that, for example. The Gundabad Guard can actually beat them, which, as it should, they are significantly more expensive and a lot more powerful as well. Starling also bringing, I believe, 3 to 4 units of the Orc Marauders. I think he's got 1 here and 1 on the other end, although I could be wrong about that. I think maybe he's just got 1 or 2 units of them. He's got some Goblin Band here, who have recently been dropped in price, so now you can bring, I think, 4 of them for 450 apiece instead of 3 of them for 500, which is a nice little thing for Gundabad to help them zone out enemy cavalry. They've also got a large number of Snaga Stalkers out here on the flank, who are deceptively good. Now, one of Gundabad's faction bonuses is that they do not suffer penalties from a larger than average unit size. Now, normally a unit that is 250 strong, the farther it gets away from the 160 baseline for infantry, the more their stats tend to decrease. It's not a huge decrease, but it is enough to help balance it out a little bit, so factions with huge numbers don't just overwhelm everybody all the time. But Gundabad does not suffer from that. Now, as a trade-off, they don't really have a lot of range potential, and they don't have a lot of stalwart cavalry as well, aside from a single unit. So, it does kind of work out, and I think Gundabad's in an okay place at the moment. But in any case, he's got, I believe, 3 units of the Snaga Stalkers, and over on the flank, he's got his heavy-hitting cavalry unit, that being the Witch Realm Inquisitors, who are very good, and I'm thinking that they might get a small buff versus cavalry, just because they have been done as a knight unit, but they are also lacking in lances, which is a big advantage that other knight units have over them. So recently, the Dol Amroth cavalry, the White Knights, got a extra 3 cavalry bonus. I'm thinking these guys are going to get the same thing moving in to the next hotfix. But in any case, move over to the center. We have the troll units here. One of them is an old favorite. Got the trolls of Gundabad, still very strong. They have more HP than your average troll unit. Then your 12 strong troll units are going to have 2 more HP per model than the 25 strong ones, with the exception of cave trolls, who have a little bit more in it, but when we come to a Misty Mountain video with the cave trolls in it, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But suffice it to say, they are now a replacement for the Blackwatch Legion. But in any case, these guys have more damage and more HP and some pretty damn nice armor as well. However, the troll swords have shields, big old shields, which I'm sure if you are a player of Skyrim, you're going to recognize that as the Orcish shield. And they've also got some heavy armor and swords as well. So they are very good. It's hard to say which one is better. I haven't really played a whole lot with Gundabad. But over here in the forest, got some really cool stuff I want to show you. New warg models. Yes, if you guys have not been on the mod DB page for quite some time, then you will not have seen these yet. And these are the new warg units that are a lot more faithful to the Peter Jackson version of it. And they don't look like, I don't know, they look kind of like peanuts before, like big, fierce-toothed peanuts, but now they actually look like scary hyenas, which I think is really fitting for these wargs. And of course, they're white wargs and black wargs and stuff like that. The Isengard wargs have different colors than the Gundabad and the Misty Mountains one. Obviously, these wargs live in the mountains or in caves and things like that, and their coat definitely reflects that. And he's got 2 units of those warg riders. Now, I think he's also got 1 or 2 units of Goblin Trackers around here as well. A little bit of range support for Gundabad. And I think the Goblin Trackers have actually gone down in price as well from previous videos where you've seen Gundabad. But in any case, let's get into the battle itself. I hope you guys enjoy. Now, this is going to be a really interesting matchup. If we take a quick look here at the order of battle for the Elves, they've got a really nice tiered defense, and they're backing up their front line here with their archers with some decent enough units. Now, once those Blackwatch Legion, now look at this. These Elder Javelins or Elven Javelins are very well placed to get some early damage off on the Blackwatch Legion, and the Blackwatch Legion are currently only 1 HP, but basically immune to arrow fire. You won't do a ton of damage to these guys with arrows, but javelins will definitely do the trick. And that's going to help the elves quite a lot, because they're going to need to be able to hold here. A lot of their forces are spearmen who are going to rely on their formation to do a lot of their damage and to defend themselves, prevent themselves from getting surrounded. So this is, yeah, it's going to be a pretty interesting fight. The Orcs of Gundabad definitely have the mass in terms of their Blackwatch Legion and their trolls to bust through the elven front line, and it's really going to be down to the elves and to try to fill any gaps in the lines that are created by the Orcs of Gundabad, try and keep their formation contiguous and not allow themselves to be overwhelmed and just dragged down by the sheer amount of numbers. But there's really a big thing here that's in Gundabad's favor, and I think it's their cavalry. Now, Warg Riders, definitely a little bit too close to the elven lines. They are extremely vulnerable to arrows, even though they all have 2 HP. They can get cut down really, really quickly by the elves. So it's going to be down to how well I think Gundabad uses their cavalry that's going to determine the outcome of this match. Now, there's a lot of really elite elven infantry here, but most of their spear units are going to be on their front line, so that's a lot of their cavalry advantage right there. So if the Orcs of Gundabad are able to leverage their fast movers with the Warg Riders and the Witch Realm Inquisitors, you can see swooping in on the other flank, then I think that Gundabad's got a solid chance here. But let's get down and dirty with it right now. The Blackwatch Legion looking like they just took a volley here from those Elven Javelins. Did a lot of damage to them, but unfortunately the Elven Javelin's going to have to retreat in the face of those Trolls. So these Elven Javelins, unfortunately, walking right now. So if those Trolls surge forward, they might be able to catch them. It looks like Gondorian Smith sees his mistake. He's going to try and run them now back behind his lines, and now the Elves are going to be able to rely on this tiered defense. So everyone is back behind the defensive wall of the Elven infantry, and they're going to be able to stand up, I think, pretty well to the infantry fight while their Elven archers do their work. But it's still, you got to worry about those Warg Riders, and it looks to me like Starling right now is just biding his time. He wants to wait until the Elven archers are busy, until Gondorian Smith's attention is elsewhere before he moves in. But let's get down on the front lines. Big clash here between the Blackwatch Legion. You can see them already beginning to do their work, muscling through the Sylvan Spearmen. Defeat already a certainty for these guys. So the Elves of Lorien going to commit their Galadrim swords to the fight. to try and hold the line against the Blackwatch Legion and the troll support that you've got coming in as well. So Starling definitely playing Gundabad the way you want to play them. Push through with your high mass units and support them with your infantry. Try and break the lines early, and especially against lower morale factions, unlike the elves, that can be a really, really devastating tactic that can evaporate front lines really, really quickly. Now over here you can see the Galadrim swords and those elven spears really suffering quite heavily at the hands of these Gundabad Guard, backed up with those troll swords. Over on this end though, you can see Sylvan Staffmasters. This is actually really important. So the Sylvan Staffmasters are holding back like almost 2 or 3 units of the Snaga Stalkers. Now, they're not going to win that fight because they don't have a ton of damage, but they will get some decent kills since the Snaga Stalkers have next to no armor, and their high melee defense is going to help them stay in that fight for a long time. They're not being kind of crushed on the flanks at the moment, so the Sylvan Staffmasters will be able to hold back a significant number of the goblins, not allowing Gundabad to leverage the weight of their numbers anywhere but in the center. Now, over here on the other flank, you can see the same thing. Goblin Band Spearmen getting stuck in versus the Sylvan Spearmasters, or Staffmasters rather. But over here now, this is the big stuff. I think I forgot to mention the Barrow Wights here. 2 HP Tar Pit, they can do a decent amount of damage, and this is a big flank attack coming in against the Elves of Lorien. Now, this is not going to be easy for them to hold back. Now, looks like the Sylvan Heavy Swords here are all ready. You can see those new and custom Elven animations in action here in just a moment. See if we can get some of those like roundhouse kicks and stuff that they do. And there you go. Now the Sylvans are going to be committing everything that they got to try and hold back this tide here. Now the Barrow Wights don't have a lot of armor. In fact, they have next to no armor and no defense, but they do have 2 HP and 7 damage. So as a Tar Pit, they can do a decent amount of damage against lower melee defense units, but against the Sylvan Spearmen, I don't think they're going to do quite so well, but they will keep these guys occupied for quite a long time. Now over in the back line, so you can see the Warg Riders doing a lot of damage to the Sylvan Heavy Archers, but they are suffering quite grievously in return, and that's just because of the low defense, high offense philosophy that we've taken when it comes to Warg Riders. So if you're not, if you're using them against cavalry, they trade very well, and if they're on the charge, they can do some serious damage to the Light Elven Archers, since they are AP on the charge, unlike most melee cavalry. And yeah, they can do a serious amount of work. Now, rear charge here into the Sylvan Staffmasters with these Warg Riders. You can see them just ping-ponging back and forth, being an absolute nuisance. Over here, Witch Realm Inquisitors just did a ton of damage to that Sylvan Heavy Archer unit, killing about half of them. You can really see the usage here. Very, very good usage of melee cav, and it really highlights, I think, the strength of melee cavalry in general in this game. They can even do serious work against heavy units like the Sylvan Archers. Now, look at that. Almost wavering. Elves wavering? What is this madness? Over here in the center, it looks like Gundarian Smith has had to fall back on his Elven Archers as well in melee, since his front line just got evaporated by that push from the Blackwatch Legion and the Gundabad Trolls. So this is looking reasonably even, I would say, although over here, the Troll Swords, along with the Gundabad Guard, have started to run out of steam. They've now run into the brick wall that is the Sindar Archers, along with the Sylvan Spearmen in the back line. Starling doing a great job at dealing with those Elven Archers, really just keeping these powerful ranged units busy and unable to do their job with his pretty excellent Cav Micro. Now over here, Warg Riders beginning to run out of steam. Unfortunately, there's a lot of them dead at this point. I think there are some in the back lines that got shot down as well. So it looks like most of the Wargs have been defeated at this point, which is going to leave a lot of these Elven Archers now free to do their bloody work. Although that being said, he does still have a pretty healthy unit of Witch Realm Inquisitors. They're going to be charging headlong now into those Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen, trying to relieve a little bit of the pressure on the Gundabad Guard and the Troll Swords. Let's see how that works out for him. Did a decent amount of damage there, but he is going to want to disengage as quickly as possible. Oh, and there goes the Gundabad General. Very unfortunate, getting cut down by Sylvan Staffmasters, of all things. Go ahead and let's kick that up to normal speed. Go over back into the center, and it looks like the Gundabad forces have kind of abandoned their push, and now Starling has shifted the might of his Blackwatch Legion over on to his left wing to try and help out his beleaguered forces. Now, the Barrow Wights here, along with the Goblin Band, are starting to run out of steam, but over here, Orc Marauders have now broken through the lines. Looks like they've managed to deal with the last of the Sylvan Staffmasters, and there's still a fair amount of Goblin Infantry over here. Got a unit of Goblin Trackers as well, who have probably look like they're out of ammunition, though I haven't seen them doing a whole lot of shooting this time, or in this battle, so I don't know, maybe he accidentally committed them to melee or something like that. But the Sylvan Spearmen here have been all but destroyed. Staff Masters have been swept through, so now Starling has a big opportunity here to surround a lot of these elves. But unfortunately, it looks like his Orc Marauders broke, and I think a lot of that has to do with the loss of his general. So this has really started to turn against Starling here. And if we look, the percentages are still more or less equal, but with the loss of his general, I think Starling is really going to struggle. Although that being said, shots from the rear like this going to take a heavy toll on the Sylvan Heavy Swordsman. You can really see just how useful a lower tier archer unit can be when used well. So it looks like Starling's going to try and rout these guys with a big fire volley from the rear. Sylvan Heavy Swordsman now shaken. If he's able to rout these guys quickly, then he might be able to swing around, face the rest of the Elven forces in the center, because right now the Elves of Lorien are really thin on the ground. Oh wow, he's actually got some Witchers too. What do you know? Are they going to break? Are they going to break those swords? Oh, surprisingly not. I didn't know he had Witchers. That's unfortunate. I think the Witchers were committed a little bit late to the battle, although he may have just been waiting for the archers to be busy or killed. But I think these guys being used a little bit earlier might have helped out, especially in the center and things like that. What we got over here? Looks like some of those troll swords might have got caught up in there. I'm seeing a few charred troll bodies as well. Looks like Starling was targeting the Sindar Archer Battalion. And yeah, they've been pretty heavily reduced, lost over half their unit, and there's still these Witch Realm Inquisitors around to be a big pain in the butt. So those Goblin Trackers are really struggling in close quarters against these Sylvan Heavy Archers, but a charge from the rear is going to be enough to rout those Sylvan Elves, and they're going to flee from the battlefield. It looks like Starling's starting to pull things back a little bit on this end with a charge here from the Goblin Band, although it looks like they are shaken. They are goblins and don't have the greatest morale. Oh, I can hear that furious roar as they charge into battle against their hated enemies. And the Sylvan Elves doing their best to hold them back. I think they're going to win that fight. The Goblin Band are a lower tier spearmen, and spearmen do have a penalty versus other infantry, so it looks like the Goblin Band are going to take some pretty serious losses, begin to rout, and the Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen are going to be victorious. And it looks to me like Gundabad has pretty much lost this fight. Now, some of the Orc Marauders came back, took some casualties, now routing again, but there's not a lot of Gundabad infantry left on the ground. Starling still has his Witch Realm Inquisitors, of course, that he can try and do his best with. Some Goblin Trackers as well. But a couple opportunistic charges here from various points are going to be enough to send those guys into a panic, and they're going to be into flee as well. And really all that leaves Starling with is his small company here of Witch Realm Inquisitors. Big charge into those Linehelven Archers. Gonna deal some decent damage to them. He's gonna ping-pong right off them into the Sylvan Archers, or the Sindar Archers rather. Cut down a few of them. Just trying to leverage his mobility, keep those Witch Realm Inquisitors moving, and deal as much damage to the Sylvan Elves as possible. Ooh, big charge into the center of those Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen. Unfortunately, that's going to find them surrounded on all sides by spearmen as the Elves of Lorien close in on Starling's final remaining unit. Starling's going to be able to retreat out of there, surprisingly, without taking very many casualties. I think that's just about it for the Orcs of Gundabad. And that's going to be all she wrote for those guys right there. As the Elves of Lorien close in from all sides, begin to drag down these Black Numenorian riders. Well, let's see what he does with them. Just kind of ping-ponging around with those two units. One of them's going to get shot down. There goes the other one. And that is going to be it for Starling. A very furious match between the Orcs of Gundabad and the Elves of Lorien. Now, a little note here on the Orcs of Gundabad. I know a lot of people had a lot of concerns about this faction moving forward, especially when we did our first Lindon video, and I think we did some other videos as well with the Orcs of Gundabad. People were really concerned that they were just going to be able to rush forward, run over people, and have that be the end of it. But obviously, this battle shows that that is not always the case. Now, obviously, the Orcs of Gundabad are a rush faction, so a lot of their strategy is going to consist of running at you and trying to overwhelm you, and that's going to work, I think, better against other factions that don't have quite the morale and the melee potential that the Elves do. So the Elves, in my opinion, seem like a decent counter to the Orcs of Gundabad in certain cases. But for other factions that are a little bit lower on morale, like Cardalin, for example, I think that the that the forces of Gundabad will be particularly effective against that, but I suppose only time will tell. But in any case, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. This is definitely the most recent version of the test build, so this is currently what the game looks like. If you guys have any questions or concerns, or just anything really, by all means, leave them down in the comment section, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. But in any case, coming out next, there's going to be a bunch of things. We're going to finish off a Warhammer series. There is a replay that someone sent in to me on the .91 build that I want to get to very, very quickly. And then, of course, we're going to have some 4th Age and a few other things as well. I've got some more 1v1s and 2v2s and things like that from the test build that I'm sure you guys would be really interested in. But in any case, I've been Jordan, also known as JMonster. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye!